That's a big one I feel like people want to know about, dealing with the child's or children's parents. Like, shouldn't kids feel happy that they're with foster parents because their parents were so bad? How can people support foster children and foster families if they're not actively being foster parents? Like, how can outside people help? Hey everybody, so we're back with a very special video with my foster mom, Mama Beans. So we've gathered up some questions that a lot of you have been asking. So we've got a lot of good stuff for this video. I think we're gonna do 2 videos, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and get right into everything. Okay, so one of the questions someone asked was what to do when the kids come to you and they're upset and they say they want to go home or they're missing their parents. How do you comfort them in that situation?
Okay, I know I already said this in one of the previous videos, but I do want to say food is the great comforter.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, food. It's also nice to have maybe a good selection of toys on hand. See, I am talking about like a toy age child. For example, well, I always say every home should have the 4 or 5 B's. Babies, meaning baby dolls. Babies, blocks, books, and what's the other one? Oh, babies, books, blocks, and there's another one, but we'll get back to that afterwards. But something, and you know, bears. Bears are always nice. Little stuffed bears or something they can hold on to, or a nice pillow that's kind of cute. You know, like right now, if I were fostering right now, I would do everything for Frozen or Mickey Mouse or whatever, because those are easily identifiable characters, and kids love that sort of thing. And it can help brighten their, you know, their time with you immediately after you've offered them some food and something to hold on to. I also would suggest maybe walking around, you know, through your house with them. And also, when I first meet a child, I don't look down at them. I usually like kneel down so that I can be on the same level as them. So I don't look like some big old bad foster mom. Yeah. And another thing is many kids have not had pets. So if you have a pet, like I have a dog, and some kids have had bad experiences with pets or no experiences, but our dog is pretty low-key once you initially walk in, and she just likes to be petted. And maybe sitting next to a child and having the dog or cat come over if they're not allergic or whatever, and just letting them pet them, you know, and that's real therapeutic for a child. And then, what else did you ask? You asked what to say about if they're going home. Okay.
They want to go
They
home.
want to go home.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, you know what? You are going to get to go home, but tonight is kind of like a sleepover. And I will stay in the same room with you. You're not allowed to be in the same bed with them. I will stay in the same bed with, or the same room with you. Sorry. Or you can stay in the room, you know, by yourself, and I'll keep all these lights on and I'm right here, you know, or I give them some choices, so they have a few choices. I can pretty well say you might as well be prepared to be up all night with that child, because they're going to wake up, they're going to be frightened, they don't know where they are, they don't know you, you know, so... Anyway, we had one child who came to us, and she really liked animals. And we had a little dog at the time, and the dog really seemed to like her right away. And she wanted the dog to sleep with her. So I did. I mean, he was really little. So we let that happen. And that was a great comfort, you know. That sort of thing. But I tell them, this is for right now, you're going to spend the night here, and your mommy and daddy, or mommy or daddy, aren't feeling too well right now, and so you need to stay here. But don't ever worry, because you will see them, you know, and that's about it. I can't think of too much else. But I do reassure them that their mommy or daddy or both love them, and that they will see them again. And same with the brothers and sisters, because sometimes you just get one, other times you get the whole family.
So that kind of leads us into the next thing. Like, that's a big one I feel like people want to know about, dealing with the child's or children's parents, and how you can kind of deal with the conflict that might be there, you know, and kids wanting to be with their parents, but they have to come back home and live with you, and there's some resistance there, or maybe even dealing with parents who are combative towards you or angry towards you for being the foster parent, or like keeping them away from their kids or whatever.
Right. And at first, and I've mentioned this before, there's a honeymoon period. After they see that they consistently count on breakfast, lunch, dinner, and if they're of school age, that they're going to go to school and make some friends, and that you will drop them off and you will pick them up. Once they see that, let's say it's been a week, and you've had them for a week and they're feeling really good and they like it. They like being there. But of course they miss their family. They're going to be really good for you for a while, and then that honeymoon period is over, but they will blame you pretty much after the honeymoon period for taking them away from their parents.
That's something that someone asked me, and I thought it was really interesting. They were like, kind of like, shouldn't kids feel happy that they're with foster parents because their parents were so bad? And it's like, that's kind of the perspective you have to understand, that no matter what happened with this kid and their parents, that's still their parents. And typically, they still love them and still want to be with them. So I think that can put foster parents in kind of an awkward situation when they're the ones that have to take care of the child, and they're kind of put in the middle of this situation, and it can make things tricky.
It can. And I would tell you right up front that you will get a lot of grief. You will get people yelling at you, cussing at you, even little kids.
It's not glamorous.
It is not glamorous. And then you will be going someplace, say you've decided, oh, we want to go out as a family, your own biological children or adopted children, whatever, and then you want to take this little girl or this little boy and girl out with you because you want to be proud of them. You want them to see what the world is like. You want to share all of your joys with them too. And you'll go out and you're feeling really good, and you're going, oh, I am so happy I have these kids and they're having fun, and I even let them order what they want. And then all of a sudden they'll look around and they'll go, oh, I hate this, and this blank place, or they'll throw something and you'll go, what? But it's not glamorous, and these incidents will happen. So you have to kind of be prepared, and sometimes you have to leave. I've left more than 1 or 2 times from a grocery store because of one of the kids either trying to steal something, throwing themselves on the ground, or calling me a name. I just left the cart and said, if you don't stop right now, we'll go home. But, you know, if you are well behaved here in the store and just listen to me, we're only going to be here a few minutes, then I will probably get you, you know, a little treat or whatever. But if not, you got to be prepared. If you said that they need to be well behaved and they're not, you've given them a second chance, you need to leave. And that means it's an irritation to you. You're going to have to go back after your husband gets home, or a friend watches the kids and you go back later. These kids have a lot of damage. And even if they came from a, quote, fairly perfect house, excuse me, being in a new place is very difficult. It just is. So they will misbehave. Excuse me, you go.
Yeah, and I do think that it's really easy to miss your parents. Even if things were not good living with your parents, you miss that normalcy, because when you go into a foster home, it's takes you totally out of your element.
Oh,
so that's
yes.
the part that can be really frightening as a foster kid. That was the part that always like made me feel really uncomfortable, because it wasn't my home, it wasn't my family, it was a completely new circumstance that I had to get used to. And people ask all the time how to make a foster kid feel welcome and things like that. That's like one of the biggest questions I get. And I feel like you said, the food, getting them food they like.
Yeah.
Making sure they have a space that's their own, especially if they're like a teenager. I feel like that's really important to be like, this is where you can go and, you know, have your quiet time, your privacy, and here's where you can put your things. And just kind of showing them around, making sure you're communicating with them what your expectations are and kind of your routines as a family and things like that. Just talk with them.
Yeah.
And I've seen some foster families who are really militant, and they're just kind of like, they take in, I guess, the bad kids, and they basically say, you don't have any rights, you have to earn them. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I feel like you have to work with each individual child and get to know them. And I think it's good to ask them questions like about where they come from and get to know them.
And you don't have to make comments when they tell you something bad. You don't have to say, oh, well, that'll never happen here, or I hope you don't have to go back, or something like that. You just
listen.
Just listen.
Yeah.
That's a really big thing, is sometimes with older foster kids, you have to kind of shut your mouth and just listen. Use your ears more.
Yeah.
And keep in mind older kids too. I do want to tell you this. Sometimes the little kids will come over and go, can I give you a hug? Or I'm so scared, or whatever. And you can give them a hug. But older kids, they are so standoffish, and they do not want any physical touch.
Very guarded.
Yeah, do not try to push that on them. Do not tell them they have to call you mom or dad. Do not tell, you can just say, you get to choose what you want to call me. Do you want to, you can call me any of these things, my first name, Mrs., whatever. So give them options. Now, the other thing is older kids want to make sure, that they can use their phone, and that there is maybe an iPad, a computer, something they can use. And you do have to set those rules right away, what's allowed, what's not allowed. And my personal opinion is kids should not be able to be on a cell phone or an iPad while you're at the table for dinner. That's a time they don't have to talk, but they do have to attend. That's it. That's the only rule.
Yeah. And I feel like along with the teenagers and stuff, I feel like you have to kind of give them the room to open up to you. I was in a situation where I had a foster parent who was constantly just like trying to break my walls down and stuff, and I didn't like that. I felt like my boundaries were being crossed, and that made me feel even more guarded. But I felt like when people gave me the room to just kind of be myself and grow into the situation, it made it a lot easier for me to let my guard down and get to know people. I felt like you guys weren't really pressing with me about, you have to talk to us and you have to do this and that. It was more just like, come to us when you're ready.
Right.
Thing.
And that's kind of what you have to do. I would also say when you get kids, especially older kids, they can see right through you whether you're real or not. And don't start lavishing them with lots and lots of stuff. Give them, a space, their own space, where they can go into the bedroom, or, a small room, family room or TV room or something like that, where they can go and be by themselves. But don't start saying, oh, can I buy you a new coat? Can I get you new shoes? Can I buy you a new computer? Don't overdo it at first, because they can see right through that. That is, it is fake, and it is uncomfortable, because a lot of the older kids do not feel they deserve stuff too. And they start getting angry, and you will have anger one way or the other, whether it's a little baby who's maybe 6 months old all the way up to a teen. There will be some kind of acting out, and you have to expect that. But all in all, I'm talking about all this. It sounds like we're trying to talk you out of it. We're not. We just want you to see the reality.
Yeah.
There is a movie that I would suggest. Oh, geez, what is it?
Instant Family.
Instant Family, that's it, with Mark Wahlberg. And it's really, it's pretty good. It does, the family does gel together pretty quickly in the movie, but it goes through a lot of stuff that I think I have been through, my husband and I have been through, and other foster families that I am aware of, because we would talk all the time, you know, what's going on with you today or whatever. And that was, in reality, pretty good. Mm-hmm. I would highly suggest you see it. You don't have to buy it. You can go to the library. But see it. Both parents should do this. If you are a couple, make sure you both see it together so you have some idea of what reality is. With my husband and my husband had worked at Children's Services as a caseworker, so we were really familiar with how things were set up at the time. And so he didn't need to be informed. He did inform me one thing that I was not aware of, and that is, he says, you're going to be going to a lot of appointments. Mm-hmm. And I didn't quite realize that until it actually happened. But yeah. That's true.
Yeah, because when you're a foster parent, aren't you required to make sure they're going to the doctor, they're going to counseling, eye doctor, dentist? I mean, you're required to do all that.
Speech therapy.
Yeah.
And then that doesn't even include, for example, another thing you need to do when that child first comes to you, especially the older ones, you can ask, well, what is it you always wanted to do? And you're not promising you're going to do that for them, but you just want to know, you know, hey, what is it that you always wanted to do? Stephanie had said something about dance. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. You know, we didn't have a whole lot of money, but I thought, well, that's another appointment. Yeah. But we did it, and she ended up not really caring for it as much as she thought she would. So what? It was an opportunity. We all don't, you know.
And that was one of the good things about being in foster care. I felt like I was able to do stuff like that, whereas in not being in foster care, I wasn't necessarily afforded those opportunities. So that's where I feel like being a foster parent can be really rewarding, because you're able, I mean, I hope you're able to, you know, take this kid and do things with them and give them experiences that they may not have been able to have before, because I know basically they're coming from neglect, they're coming from bad circumstances. So yeah, I don't think they necessarily get to be kids and they don't get to do fun things. So I think it's good when you can take a kid to like a museum or take them to see a play or something to pique their interest, to where they can figure out what they like or get to see the world from a different perspective where they may not have been able to do that before.
Okay, that does lead into about discovering the world of places they haven't been. You are told you need to let these kids be like your real child, you know, your own children, and take them places. So you want to do that. Well, my family, my parents and my brother and cousins and everybody lived about an hour and a half away. Well, so when we went there, I didn't want to leave the foster child with another foster family, of which you have to get permission anyway. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted them to meet and be part of that family too. So you have to get permission, and you do want to obey that law, because say, for example, if you would be in an accident or the foster child would get sick, you can't call up Children's Services and say, oh, I broke the rule. You want to obey those rules, you know, and if you have to get a written signature or permission ahead of time, do that. After a while, you know, we were fairly well known at that time when we were foster parents by several of the caseworkers. So they would say, hey, since you're going to visit your mother every month, we will go ahead and write a permission slip for you, you know, for 3 months at a time. So you don't have to come here all the time. We don't have to go through and find a supervisor and get all these people to sign off on it. So you have to kind of know how the system works, and don't expect everybody in Children's Services or whatever the name is of your particular agency. Don't expect them to go, oh, yes, of course I'll do that. Don't expect that, because you will have to prove yourself as a foster parent first, and then they'll start to listen to you more.
So one of the things that someone had asked, and I thought was a really good question, was how can people support foster children and foster families if they're not actively being foster parents? Like, how can outside people help?
Okay, I do know a couple of things that you can do. First of all, I do want to say before I even answer that a lot of people come over and say, you know, like in the grocery store or whatever, obviously if I have children of a different race and I am a white woman, they understand that those are not my biological children, and they'll come over and they say, oh, did you adopt these kids, or are these your foster kids? And that would open up a lot of information, you know, and questions. They would always say, oh, thank you for doing this. And I go, well, really, these kids give me more, I feel, than what I'm giving them. And that was the honest to goodness truth. Sorry, my dog is making a strange little sound.
She wants attention.
Yeah. But anyway, they would say, oh, well, how do you do this and that? So I would always be able to give them information on becoming foster parents or adoptive parents by giving them numbers or names. But a lot of times they'd say, oh, I can't do that because I travel for a living, or I have so many kids, or I work too many hours. So there are ways they can still help. One of them is, for example, I think, you know, through work, a lot of people do get like tickets. You know, their boss will say, oh, I have 4 tickets for the game tonight. You know, would you like them? And at times people will say, yes, I'll go ahead and take them, not knowing what their family's plans are for that night. Well, for example, that person who is not a foster parent or in the system could call Children's Services and say, hey, I have 4 tickets tonight. Is there any family who could use these? That's a wonderful thing to do. Another thing you could do is you could volunteer and be a CASA worker. And I can't remember what CASA stands for, but it's court appointed something, I can't remember. And it's, what it does is, this is a person who works with the kids and the families, and it's wonderful. They're kind of like a go-between. It is a volunteer job. You will not receive pay for it. Okay.
What do they do?
They just, I don't know.
Just a bunch of different things.
Actually, I never had a CASA worker. Okay, you will have to call your agency and see if there is a CASA, C-A-S-A program with your agency. Another thing that you can do is you can organize a collection of some type. A collection of...
Like supplies?
Yeah, supplies, like school supplies.
Clothes are always probably helpful. Like
clothes. New clothes would be best.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, especially if it's for older kids. Everybody likes to give little kids things, but the older kids really need it. Keep in mind, you know, girls really like makeup and most up-to-date, you know, jewelry.
And clothes, like it's stuff to make you feel good and estimable. Like I know when I lived with my mom, I had like 1 pair of pants and maybe 2 shirts. So it felt great to be able to have some clothes when I came into the system. That was one of the perks, I guess, of being in foster care, was being able to like get better taken care of than I would have.
Another thing you could do if you want to give is you could give gift cards. Gift cards would be really nice to the agency. They don't have to be big ones. You know, $5. $5 increments, like to McDonald's or to a coffee place, because, you know, it doesn't matter. $5, $10, those little gift cards mean a lot to kids. And when someone's going through a rough time, for them to get a gift card would be really helpful. Let's see what else they could do. Okay, sometimes, like, you know, in the fall of the year, you hear of all these programs that give school supplies, backpacks, all that. But halfway through the year, these kids are needing stuff again.
Like shoes, maybe like winter shoes,
right?
And winter coats, things like that.
You could even organize a shoe collection and put it in the newspaper,
Or Facebook.
or Facebook is a
Yeah.
great way to do it, and say, I'm collecting new shoes or gently used shoes for teens or kids, and give the ages or the sizes, whatever you want to do. Please drop them off here, and we will be donating them to kids at Children's Services. There are so many things: backpacks, shoes, coats, mittens, socks, gift cards. There's just anything that you would like is what they would like. Maybe even movie passes. Oh my gosh, movie passes or theater. Do you think most of these kids have ever been to the theater? Probably not. And you don't even have to buy expensive things. You can go to local theaters and get a couple passes or a couple tickets, or the high schools. High schools and colleges have very reasonable ones. And I don't know. If you know somebody who has foster kids, you can deliver them yourself. If not, then you could take them to the agency, and believe me, they will be well used and very happy.
I think if you just ask around, I think you'd be surprised at the amount of people who would love to participate and contribute something, like local businesses. Even if you make just some phone calls and be like, hey, I'm trying to support this cause, would you be interested in contributing, things like that. And I think you'd probably be surprised at how willing people are to help.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just thought of something else, like nails. If you know a couple of people that would like to do nails for kids, you could call Children's Services and say, I would like to have like a nail and hair day. And I would like to work with that. Yeah.
I knew of a girl in college, and she had this program she did for foster girls going to prom or school dances, and she had these girls who did hair and makeup come in and help do their hair and makeup and things like that for those special occasions, which I think that's a really nice idea.
Yeah.
Or even like donating dresses and things like that for those kinds of occasions.
Yeah. Hair products. You could have a fun thing, a big donation of hair products, for all ages and all ethnicities. That would be really cool. But work with someone from Children's Services and say, I like to organize this. I want to do a giving thing, and I'm not sure what I should do. But use your own gifts to figure out what you would like to do. Okay.
Okay, so I think that's going to be it for this video. We don't want it to run too long, so we're going to do part 2 next and answer some more questions and give you guys some more valuable information. So yeah, watch our next video, and thanks so much for watching this one. And if you guys have any questions or things you'd like to share, maybe some information that you have, because I know foster parenting can kind of vary from state to state, so maybe if you want to comment and share the information, that would be wonderful. So we'll see you in our next video. Bye.
So long.